All right, I call to order the regular meeting of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District. It is 6:03, July 9th. Pull up a chair. And we will start with a roll call. I'm Karen Morgan present.
Dave Wickman present.
Roger Wendell present.
Art Martinez present.
Randy Little present.
And we have a quorum. Are there any disclosure matters to discuss tonight? Disclosure matter being conflicts of interest of upcoming agenda items.
I'm sorry.
Disclosure matters are generally conflicts of interest on upcoming agenda items that you'd like to make known. So
I have.
this is now the time where you would make that known.
Oh, I
Okay,
don't know of any at the moment.
very good. Just letting you know, no, we don't have, seeing them here. Any changes to the agenda? Approvals, deletions, anything? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. We have a limit of 5 minutes per person, and I will start with those in the room. Did you have public comment to make?
No public comment, just here for the agenda.
Public comment. All right, anybody online would like to raise their hand? Ms. Ludmilla.
Hi, were you disgusted to see my name up there?
We're so excited.
I know you look so excited. I lost what I was going to say. Well, all right. I know you're excited, so let me continue. Good evening, members of the board, Dylan, Josh, and Sam. During the board meetings, the president and individuals in the audience are not visible when the sun sets to the west. That is why at the last board meeting, I congratulated our new board member when he wasn't present. So now again, I will congratulate our new board member, Mr. Martinez. I wish you the best, and I hope you're now aware of when the board meetings are held. Oh, you're okay today. We got cloudy overhead, right? Don't need to shut the blinds now. Well, that makes it perfect. That's perfect. I can see everyone now. All right. I'm excited and hoping to hear that Green Mountain Water is moving forward and not looking back. Curious on where we stand on the ravine. Are we close to fixing the problem? I think it's on the agenda. Even though, per the title report, the city of Lakewood is the owner in fee simple of the land, and there is no exclusion for water or sewer pipelines or bridges and trestles spanning the ravine. I just quoted a line from the ravine report, page 10. Also, intrigued and excited to hear about the hydraulic model. And here we go on the Denver Federal Center development is apparently going to be a metro district. And if they follow in line with other metro districts, they will be charging double amount for their utilities. Got to make a buck, right? When are our politicians going to crack down on the metro districts and not spend thousands of dollars trying to take Tabor away? Would love to hear about the overlap of water and sewer services. Last but not least, what's everyone having for dinner tonight? I didn't eat dinner yet, so don't go too long on the meeting. I have leftovers that are calling my name. Have a great meeting. Until next time, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else online? I don't see any hands raised. Going once, twice, and closing public comment. All right, thank you, everyone. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. We just have the June 11th minutes to approve.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Very good. Director Little.
Second.
Director Wickman seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous approval. Motion passes. Thank you. Financial matters. Uh. Would you like to say anything? Or
I would.
motion? Okay,
Caught me at an inopportune moment, but I'm ready.
right at the time.
I've been on the phone quite a bit, with our accountant. He's been very helpful. I've learned a lot, as I mentioned last time. I wanted to mention that we got, quite a bit of savings accumulated. And in his unofficial kind of, personal forecast, we're gonna remain at that level. I don't think I need to state the amount here publicly, but it is available in the records, but we're stable. That amount is expected to stay where it's at or a little bit higher for the next year or so. Going through the finances, everything looks great. One thing I did notice though is that from January to June of this year, we've used 24% more water and it's cost us more, of course. And I'm not sure why that is. Josh, any particular reason why the district as a whole has used a lot more water than the same period last year? And I meant to ask him, I asked Doug and I forgot.
Yeah, at this time last year, May, June, it was very wet. A lot of people hadn't even turned their sprinkler systems on. This year, we've been extremely hot. Pretty much all of June was up in 90s. We've seen that reflected in the system total.
Great. That makes perfect sense. And it illustrates how detailed Doug's financial reporting is. He covers just about everything, so it's very interesting. But he's got my vote. It's in order this month for sure.
Wonderful. Would you like to make a motion?
I move that we accept that.
Second.
Okay, accepting both the expenses, expenditures, and the financial investment reports.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion, any questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Aye, unanimous approval. Great. Can we have an update on the signers? Who's doing it?
Yeah, I have the sheet here. Basically, anybody that's gonna do any sort of check signing or any movement on the monies that we have available to us. We'll sign off here. That'll effectively remove the board members who are no longer on the board.
Okay,
So I have that sheet here. We can pass it around now or.
that would be fine. Get it done.
And then I will also need. Director Martinez and Director Little to fill out these two forms for the bank. And as well as a photocopy of the driver's license that we need to send over to them, so. That will be. I can get it from you tomorrow or something like that, if that works, we'll send them out there, but that'll satisfy them, and then that makes you guys signers for the district.
Okay. Okay. So while they're doing that, we can move on to the manager report.
Had a little bit of a busy month for main breaks, had a few corrosion breaks. I'm sure you saw Jill and Union. For those of you that are go on this end of the district, we had a.
Yes, remember I sent you that email. When I saw that Denver Water Group down there at Union and Jewel. Any idea what they were up to?
They have a line that runs from, like Alameda, I'm sorry, Jewel and Garrison. That supplies water to our green pump station right down here. They were doing completely unrelated work. They just so happened to be out there while we had the main break happen, so. I think they were sending a valve or something in one of their manual vaults.
Well, I naturally overreact and panic when I see 3 trucks out there, like, oh my God, we're losing our water.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting one. It was on a 12-inch main. Union Place, that's right there at the very edge of the district. They tapped in sometime in I want to say it's late 90s, early 2000s. Well, they ductile iron had corrosion on it that blew some holes on either side of the tapping valve. And I actually attached some photos so you can see what it looks like. Just our normal maintenance report, year to date. I was just speaking of the 12-inch main, blue holes in the ductile iron. We had another one up on, Montana Avenue and Welch over here, corrosion as well, just hot spots in the soil, create weak points and the pressures that we will deal with up here in the 90s to 100 plus. It finds those weak points and creates a leak, so. During normal regular valve maintenance, we had to replace a couple of valves as well, so. Just keeping our crew busy. Here's some photos that we did take from the Jewel and Union leak. This is the tapping valve, so a lot of times for alignment purposes, they'll use what they call a tapping sleeve. It actually clamps around the pipe, then they have basically a hole saw that will go in there and it cuts out, in this case, an 8-inch hole to create volume to feed that street, so. That was a long leak. It goes from 18-inch down to 15-inch down to 12-inch. With butterfly valves, we had probably 12 valves we had to shut down just the way the system is set up in that area, so. We were able to get it done though.
So Josh, I saw this in the packet. I was a little confused. The piece on the right is what was removed. In the middle there is the brand new, that whole section replaced all of that.
These 3 photos here are all of the old that are in here. That's the, as we were digging it out, once we got it exposed, you can see the water leaking out here and part of how we keep the main safe. We keep positive pressure on the system so no impurities can get back into the main until we get the water level down to a point where we can completely shut it down.
So it had been repaired before, and now that repair failed again?
It had not been repaired. That's what when that street went in, Union Place for that little subdivision. They tapped into the 12-inch right there to create another branch line for that cul-de-sac.
Do you have a picture of the repair itself?
I don't in here, no. What we did was we just put a brand new piece of 12-inch in. There's a company called Colorado Hot Taps. They came out and they did the exact same process. Trying to fit a T in with a valve. With all the mechanical joint fittings and everything in a small hole like that, it's not fun, so.
There's a valve here, right?
Yeah, this is a branch valve here. This is the 8-inch that feeds the cul-de-sac. So that's the isolation point there. And this is a very common practice to do what they call a wet tap or a hot tap. It's pressurized line that they're tapping into. The coupon kind of actually gets pushed out from the water pressure once they make the cut. It slides out, they close the valve, and then they're good to go.
So is the valve removed too, or the valve's still there?
The valve's removed, that hole, all that, you can see, this is down in the hole. And then this is actually sitting out before we hauled it away, right next to our dumpster bin. So
Was it a good idea to remove the valve?
we have it, there's a new one.
Is there no way it's like?
Yeah.
What's a normal size hole for an average home
A normal size
hole that you drill into a pipe?
for a customer residential, like a single family home, it's a 3/4 inch connection. This is an 8-inch connection because it feeds the entire street plus a fire hydrant.
Oh,
For fire demand,
your
yeah,
water, okay, I think it's sewer.
yeah. Sewer, it's a 4-inch connection for
Okay.
the homeowner.
So you were able to control the leak from this valve here initially?
That valve right there is what goes into the cul-de-sac, so upstream of this, along the line closer to Dunstan and like Jewel and Wright Street, there was a butterfly valve there that we had to shut on a 15-inch. But all the streets like Van Gordon and Vivian and all those streets come down there, all have a branch out that also has to be closed to isolate the leak, so. We had, I think, in all 10 valves shut down.
And how old was it?
I want to say that was probably installed in the late 90s, early 2000s. It didn't, they didn't wrap it correctly, is what it kind of looked like to me, so. Water got in there and it sits on either side of that. Excuse me, that tapping valve there and just creates corrosion. Hot soils that we have up here,
The outside.
on the outside in. That's why kind of depending on your soil conditions, C900 is plastic PVC pipe. That's kind of what we've migrated towards here to eliminate things like that. Any mechanical connection is still ductile iron, but those are wrapped heavily with tape. So they're hot dipped almost, so that there's just no way to get to them.
So, yes, I mean, we have quite a few of this type of connections around.
Yep.
So we can expect this to occur.
It just really depends on the soils. We have some pipe over off of like Alameda and Kipling that are from the late fifties, early fifties, and they're in perfect condition, so. Yeah, it's a very strange. Very strange.
Right.
And this will be going into our GIS, it'll be part of our tracking and our mapping for. Predictive. Pipeline replacements.
It's times like this where when we have a open hole like this, where we look at the material surrounding, make notes about the surrounding material. In this case, the pipe up and downstream of this section were in actually very good shape. It was just at the replacement joint where there was corrosion.
You got hot soils, everybody, like the water line is electrical ground for all mountains as well, so that.
So how far did you go up and down the line to replace the pipe?
We cut out about 5 feet.
Yeah. And so the soil was good enough to support that pipe. It's
Yeah, we put bedding material in, we wrapped it and taped it off. So it'll be good for a while, long while. And you can see, kind of what we deal with here as well as soils. This edge right here, that's actually from a trenching machine that trenched down through the dirt in order for them to lay the water main in there, so. Very tough soils up here, shale. Very unforgiving. Very unforgiving soil.
And we contract this out to.
We do this in house. We contracted out the tap. We don't have the equipment for that and it's not cost effective for us to buy something like that.
Well, it looks like a challenge. Thanks for dealing with it. How is that, this sheet for all the capital improvements going, infrastructure replacement?
You're still waiting on the schedule.
What's good?
The schedule for are you talking about the 2024?
No, just as a whole.
Oh,
Where you're cataloging every piece, that whole big detailed thing.
going well. I mean, we got it pretty well to the point where that's. The cataloging portion is as up to date as we can get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can always refine as we make changes like this.
Okay. Very
Yeah,
good.
we're gonna start running the queries too to kind of get some of the heat mapping. Now I'm at our pro now, so we'll be able to, they show me cast iron pipe from 1950. It's got a bunch of leaks or hasn't had any leaks, and it'll heat map areas of the district that we can concentrate on.
And if anybody's interested in doing a deep dive, we could do a study session or something like that.
Okay.
Dig into that stuff.
So exciting. Thank you. Thank you for doing it. Wonderful. Okay, what's next?
Development reviews, 11907 West Alameda Parkway is requesting plan approval. They went through our procedures with the flow study. Denver Water as well with the, all the criteria that they want to have over there. For their, since they're tying into our master meter district. So it's gone through, I'd say, close to a year's worth of reviews. And they're at the stage now where they want to be able to install the car wash.
Um. Did we see the review? Do we have something? I didn't see it in a board.
I didn't put it in a board packet. I didn't know if we wanted to spend that time, tonight
Okay,
looking at plans, but,
I would say send us the plans and we can review them and be ready to discuss next time.
okay,
Then we can ask you questions in between
sounds good.
and, those generally will need a vote. So we'll need time to look them over, ask the questions, and we can do that at the next one.
Fletcher Miller, they're still waiting on Denver water approval. There was a couple easement issues and, some unidentified connections to our system that they didn't have in their GIS that they've corrected. So they're about ready to be in the same boat as,
I don't remember seeing Fletcher Miller before. What are they doing?
they're replacing the school.
The whole school?
Yep. They're leaving the school in place, building the new school. Once the new school is operational, they're gonna demolish the old school and make it, I think, probably a parking lot for the new
Okay,
school.
well, that's a project, all right.
Yeah,
Major.
Okay,
the federal center. We received the environmental review from Tri-Hydro. And it's being circulated through you guys right now and staff and our consultant engineering team.
let me take this opportunity. I tried reading it on my little machine here. That's why I hate this machine. I can't read it worth a darn. And you said you couldn't send it to us, so it's too big. Is there can you put it on a flash drive or something where I can read it on my computer, or can you print it out?
I can, either way,
Either way.
I can print it for you if that makes it easy.
The PDF file. Oh, he gets it.
It's like 45 megs, so email, it's too large for email to send it.
So how many pages hard copy?
I forget how many total. I think there's like 80 or 90 pages total, but there's a lot of exhibits and things like that in there. The report itself is only about 6 pages.
Okay, well, I can handle that. It's those 900-page ones.
Yeah, it just, everything that they referenced in the report is attached as an exhibit, the area that they're discussing, the different pieces of. Phase 1 and 2, things like that, so.
Okay, so you'll send me a hard copy.
Yeah, well, when I get a minute here, I'll just print it really fast.
You could come pick it up probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't need it
Okay.
tonight, but.
All right. So that's, we're waiting for, Miller Associates to put their, comments and recommendations together. I have some. So if you guys come up with some, please send them to me and we'll add them to the list.
Has the EPA itself reviewed their plans?
EPA, I don't think they're defaulting to CDPHE for guidance on that project.
Because there was boatloads of documentation out there not to build on that project. through
Is
the
EPA still doing that, or are we just assuming that since that was default from years ago, that that's still the situation?
It's under the purview of CDPHE at this time.
So they're,
But as EPA specifically said in the last 12 months, that they don't want to look at it, that they're.
Not that I'm aware of. I know it's been under the guidance of, or the purview of CDPHE for many years. They have some.
Yeah, so I
plans
think it
established
happened.
out there.
It happened years ago,
Yeah,
and I'm assuming it's just staying in effect. Well.
Yeah.
Might not be a bad idea. Ask EPA to look at it again.
and I thought the report was pretty thorough. They have a lot of good recommendations, but we definitely will have some to add.
the EPA had a lot of recommendations as well. On several years ago. And I think, I don't know if I gave it to you, but I printed out, before I was on the board, I printed out, there's probably
Yeah, and part
200
of
pages of what not to do.
part of what Tri-Hydro did was a desktop study of all previous studies, documents. They're very, I think that their report goes back to the 40s. I think what they were using the site for.
Well, one of the things I was gonna recommend when we get down on the agenda, that this whole area about the defense center is a very big deal. It's not like passing one little business or one little apartment complex. It's a big deal. And I look back upon the experience that we had, when we took on Rudy Valley. And the board back in the day was, whatever the developer says, go ahead and do it. Didn't think all the way through, and then here we are decades later, trying to fix all the mistakes. And so the thing that comes to my mind, this is a big deal and we can't be rushing this. And
Absolutely.
it's the sort of thing, when I was with the city, we were actually working on it for years at the Fed Center, and there was all sorts of, I mean, I was even on the citizens group before I was on council, and then after council, I mean, they were at it for a decade. They were trying to be thorough. And I think we need to be doing the same thing with this. And any of this, like, let's rubber stamp and move on. No, we don't want to fall in that mistake again.
Yeah, and that's the route that we as a staff and I think you as a board are. That's the route we're gonna go. for sure.
So anyway, I'm gonna recommend it. We perhaps do some study sessions and workshops and really get into the nitty gritty this time. No more rubber stamps.
And I'm kind of wondering if we, I don't know if I'm new on the board, but you have some sort of representation from some of these organizations, like the EPA, maybe come to us and give us a in-person presentation of what their assessment is. I don't know if that's.
So what the route we have taken,
Okay.
and I hear what you're saying to be doing, but these aren't. For us as a district, and our responsibility was to say, we can ask for this other study, which we have done.
Okay.
So we have this engineer doing another study, and part of that process, the thought process back in the beginning was that no matter what we found, now we can say this is an independent study, and we can open this up for questions and more public and build some of the public trust that no, it's not just one-sided, there's been multiple, it's all fine, and you can ask questions. So that is going on at this stage in the game. We are at this draft report.
Yeah.
And they have taken into consideration all of these other studies. So to bring anybody else in would first require you to read and understand all of the report that you have in your hands.
Okay.
If we need something else at that time, we will go forward. But what we're looking for right now is to move the draft report to a final report so that we can assess the next step, which may be a public meeting about it. It may be we need to do more studies and follow the recommendations that are in there. I don't think study sessions at this point would be helpful until we know what we're dealing with and what we want to go do. Just have the data at hand to be able to really work the problem.
Well, I know I personally need a study session to understand what the details of the stuff. And I think the rest of the district would probably appreciate that as well. And it goes along with our, my pet mantra is that haste makes waste. So let's get this one right. Let's not, blow through this one real, we're not in a hurry here.
I feel a little bit, it's a little bit of cart before the horse. They want to, look at an internal review. But we need to look at the external review as well, what came about. I mean, there's litigations and files from the EPA that I have read that they will not. Nobody can dig more than a foot below the ground.
And they have looked at all. So they're looking at all of
Okay.
that.
Yep, yeah, it's all in that, and it's very detailed.
Okay, that's fine.
And what-
I'm speaking
A
of.
lot of.
There's no haste here. We've been working on this for what, 6 months? Of getting all the environmental,
6 months is a haste on a project like this, will affect the district for decades.
we can't take decades.
Exactly.
We have a responsibility to move it, so we have to move it. What we do want to do is let the professionals do their job so that we can evaluate and discuss. So once we get the data from the professionals, we can have a study session and if at that point there are any questions unresolved, at this point, that's what we're looking for. What do they think is unresolved? What are they recommending we do more? At this point, that's all we're doing. If there's anything you see in the reports, any other questions that you have, that we need to put into this initial report, any of the recommendations you do or do not want to do, that will be our next decision. Do you want to follow any of these recommendations? Do you want to do any of these things? That will be our next decision point. on this environmental review. At that point, we can, I mean, the decision tree branches, right? We can do more studies, we can hold a study session, we can ask questions of whatever, but right now, what we are looking at. So everything that you're wanting to do is still on the table, just not today.
Yeah.
Today is, do you have any questions or input for this draft report? To
Well-
get to the final part.
Yeah, well, when that comes up the agenda, yeah, I do have an opinion about that.
And think about timelines, because you're concerning me a little bit, because I don't anticipate doing 6 months of study sessions. If we are, between you and me, Dave, the knowledge that we have about environmental studies is not much. That's why we're hiring people to do. So we are gonna need to think about how we're doing a timeline.
Well-
This has been going on for at least 10 years.
I was gonna
6
say,
months.
if it takes 6 months and it's done right, that's far better than putting it out right now than having it as a problem for the next decades.
This is true.
So,
Do you anticipate being able to get this final report out by this time, by the next meeting?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I think once you guys review it and see what Tri-Hydro, the research they did on all the previous documentation and what their recommendations are, which there are a lot of very good ones in there, which is gonna initiate probably, you know, a few study sessions with us once we get the final report put together.
Okay. Did anybody look at the report? Do you have any questions now? Did you have a chance to look at the recommendations?
And you know, like I said,
well, I told him, I tried looking at it, I couldn't read it on my machine. So,
Okay, all right. I'm sure Josh is always available. Somebody's always available. Come down and get it. It's
Yeah,
always
we'll,
here.
we'll get a few hard copies printed off. Sure, I'll take one, yeah.
Okay,
if you put it in a PDF, I'll come to the drive or something. I can turn that, I'll turn it into a book that can be read.
Yeah, well, you have a, right now you have a link to our cloud storage.
Oh, I
For the
do, okay.
district, you do, so it'll open as a PDF in your,
Okay,
on your.
thank you.
device.
well, yeah, I tried doing that.
Yeah.
And my computer people need to get with me because it locked me out. It didn't have the password or whatever, so.
Yeah, it's probably the multi-factor authentication, which is just
Whatever.
a security feature that we have to prevent. Somebody finds something that has district material on it, they're not gonna be able to gain access, so. We can get with Jesse, and get you squared away.
okay,
Thank you.
okay. Fantastic. What else?
1031 South Union, right next to Green Mountain Swim Club, we do have a. Data from the flow study. With JVA, and I think we're still waiting to hear back from them on what their final report's gonna say for. What their impact to the system will be.
Bear with me, my knowledge of addresses. 1031. What's the address of the one there at the Mountain View Cafe?
That's 1078 South Elkhart.
Okay, so it's not Union.
No, this is right next to Green Mountain Swim Club. That
Well, I know what you're describing.
Okay.
It sounds like 1031 sounds a little farther north than where I'm thinking the swim court. Well, I'm not looking at a map. I'm just trying to, off the top of my head, trying to cross the street with Gary Queen.
Mhm.
Okay, 1031 is across from that.
Yeah, right between Green Mountain Swim Club and Green Mountain Elementary,
Okay,
that field right there.
okay, that's where it's intended to be.
Yep.
Okay. Second thing that comes to vote is there's talk about this school district or whatever selling the school. Green Mountain Elementary. And so there's been speculation on the street that if that's the case, some developer might try to combine that with this property and do because this property is incredibly small with the 13 houses, whatever.
Yeah,
And so if they were to combine it to the school, raise the school, then all of a sudden they got a nice big piece of property. And then the other rumor was, what if the swim club leaves? And then you got the whole block, going on up in the air. All I'm hearing a lot of rumors, how would all that come to play?
I personally went to a meeting with the Jefferson County School District and the I think it was RCL or something like that. That is now trying to sell the property. both properties, the Glen Heights Elementary and the Green Mountain Elementary. Right after I went to that meeting, Jefferson County Schools came up and said they have sold the other two properties up north, which is in our water district. But Cardell Homes bought both school properties, and they're gonna strip it and put homes in there. And that was the rumor that flowed at this Jefferson County School meeting that night. They were gonna do that to both properties. My question, and I kind of passed it on to people I know, is there enough taps to fulfill? They're talking 50 homes that they're gonna put in at Glen Heights. And probably 75 to 100 homes if they bought the whole property up there with the Green Mountain Elementary and the property right next door and the swimming pool. So that was where that rumor came from that particular meeting. And so I think that's our due diligence to maybe look into that. Or are they applying for these things yet?
We have not,
Anybody bought anything yet that we
we have
know?
not had anybody
Okay.
approach us on anything like that, and when they do, we just provide them with the development review document that we have.
Okay.
Which includes, there's a lot of due diligence on our part to make sure it's not.
The city of
negatively
Lakewood,
impact
excuse me, I'm sorry.
our system.
The city of Lakewood was also there. They were talking about a metro district for these properties. And I'm going, well, that's interesting, and they're close enough to, could this be part of a metro district at the federal center? And they add this all together as one thing. I don't know.
I don't know, I don't wanna derail, but on the other hand, we have no idea, and this is all
No.
rumor and speculation, so until we get a plan, what they will do first is give us,
Well, that's
we'll
what
hear
we're
about
trying
it
to
and then
find
we'll do it.
Well,
So the question is, have they submitted anything or let us know? No, we have not heard, so
Okay.
we cannot speculate and anything else is.
Okay,
well, the reason I bring that up is what's been in my mind is we got so many apples in the cart or whatever, that it used to be in the old days, you bring in another house, another apartment, we can handle that. But we got so much on board right now, and we're not really sure how much we can take on. Remember, I asked that question, how many taps do we have, 400, whatever? And so many big projects coming down. I think at some point, rather than doing this piecemeal, your project comes in, you got 30, you're okay. Next one comes in, you got 40, you're okay. I think we need to sit down and look at a global and see all the projects that we see coming down and see what the whole plan is. Cause my fear is we sit there and we take the first one that comes in and say, oh, we can handle 30, you get to come in. And we do that enough times, pretty soon we're past our capacity. We're overwhelmed, we've bitten off more than we can chew. And then all of a sudden we got people coming in very upset that, what have you done? I think we need to have a global plan of where we're going in the future. And right now, I don't think we're there.
Yeah, and we're having those conversations with Denver Water, on what under our agreement with them, what our tap availability is and what would become of exceeding that or anything like that. So there is, the interest is out there. The Denver metro area is, they're looking to.
Well, anyway, we might want to do a committee or a task force, whatever, and do that long-term planning. Rather than just piecemeal, just rubber stamping whatever comes along, then all of a sudden we find out, what did we get ourselves into? The reason I'm so obsessed about that, I've been reading these lawsuits like from Big Sky. And they're like, well, back in the day, 15 years ago, when Adam was on the board, you rubber stamped everything. And you led us to believe that you'll give us everything we wanted, Solterra. And then they come back and said, well, you led us on, et cetera, et cetera. And, I kind of feel for developers, but the sort of thing is like, we weren't careful about leading them on or promising more than we can develop, and we can deliver, and we could be in trouble down the road. So I think we need to be conservative and cautious.
This
And
is a
that's
good
the-
caution,
The approach we are taking.
but we do have a plan and. If you have something that you would like to put on the agenda to discuss about this, I urge you to do that and have a plan and something to talk about. This is not a motion.
No, not
For now.
not for tonight. And
Okay.
that's why I'm thinking the study session, workshops down the road. It's not for tonight.
And it may not be something that the board needs to be doing first. We'll look at it. Think about how you would do it. Did you have a comment?
No, I
like what you're saying, that's for sure. And I agree, we should have a structural plan that encompasses everything out there and what we're able to support. And just don't willy-nilly hand it out.
Right.
Maybe on a first come, first served basis, but when
Yeah.
people come in, we say, okay, we'll put you in the queue and see what we can handle, and we'll make a decision appropriately.
Right.
That's-
And don't promise anything.
What
Yeah.
scared me a little
That's
bit
the
too,
current
just that last meeting, what scared me a little bit is at the meeting that the city of Lakewood was there, their planning department was there. And these properties that you were talking about can change from single family to 5-story tall apartment complexes real quick. So I mean, it's just up to them to change the zoning and
These are problems,
we
yeah,
got a lot of problems then.
yeah, yep, and yep, we have been talking.
I'll be quiet.
No, just like to keep us kind of on the agenda a little bit.
Yep.
Anything else for the manager? Replacement project.
Oh, yeah, RFPs, just today, as a matter of fact, I was scheduled from Concrete Works Colorado, they're looking to start in July 15th. And they're gonna start, I believe it's on the north end of the district up there, by Telluride West on that first main. So we're gonna create a webpage for residents to be able to access, to see a schedule, to see who's gonna be affected and, you know, what equipment's gonna be on their street, things like that, shutdowns for tie-ins and things like that. So there will be no questions as to what's happening in their neighborhood.
Do we have something that is like a reverse call to citizens in that neighborhood? Like if we're gonna shut the water down, do we let them know ahead of time?
We do have that capability, although we put that onus on the contractor, which they sent us a draft of that today. With their contact information, emergency contact information, we put out 24-hour advance notice for any sort of interruption that they're gonna receive. We feel anything further out than that, you know, can be forgotten about or something like that. So in our opinion, over the years, 24-hour notice has been effective, so.
Yeah, I just went through this with electricity. They put in new telephone poles in my neighborhood. Well, they didn't let us know. So all of a sudden, we're out of electricity for 8 hours.
Yeah.
You know, there's a zillion people in my neighborhood that work from home. Have to be on the internet all day long. Including my wife, she was all over me. Anyway,
Yeah, no, we will definitely, the residents will not be, there'll be no.
yeah, water's a little bit different than
Yeah.
electricity.
Yeah, we will,
You still work.
utilizing all of our tools available to us to make sure they know what's going on. Yes, sir.
You just agree? Okay,
July, the webpage, review crossing, I spoke with Respect today, Alan, just trying to get the most updated information before tonight. They are waiting on the soils report for the south end abutment, so they know what sort of anchoring that they need to do over there for the crossing itself.
okay. Can you get a date on when that's expected? Because I think that's where we were with them last time we talked.
Yeah, well, we set up that, we gave them the green light to do the soils report, they just haven't received it quite yet, so.
So we need to,
And they were
Which on
expecting
it?
to receive it this week.
Yeah,
okay,
this week, but he said more than likely they'll get it next week, so once they receive it, Alan said he'd reach out and we'll set up a meeting to review it.
and how are they doing with implementing the final on the 8-inch? Because they already had a draft of that and they were waiting for this final input, which is gonna be really similar soils to the 700 feet away,
Yeah.
so. I don't anticipate that's going to really change a whole lot.
I don't think it is either. It's
So
just
we could
gonna-
be able to have something on the bridge plan
Yes,
by the next meeting,
that's my
something
goal.
for approve,
Yep, that's my
Okay.
goal.
goal for next time, good?
Sorry, one last thing on that, it will have to go through Lakewood's e-tracking system and their engineering sign off, so.
Yeah,
Once we meet with them, I guess we'll have a final plan, we can just submit that.
perfect,
And then that gets the ball rolling with Lakewood on their approval.
excellent.
Next item is hydraulic model. we are working, with Olson to get them up and running with both the water and sewer. They have a, functioning water model, and they are working on getting the sewer model up and going. We are going to be adding the new metering data to that to start refining that model. Those models are also where we have a current and a future system build out in place so that we can do structure needs at full build out. Have to start putting that project in place. The more data that we get in there, the better we can refine it and have the better idea we have of what will need to be replaced in a build out scenario.
I think, once again, that was where we were at this time last month, that they were still working on bringing in the sewer model.
Yeah, they're connecting with JVA. They've since done that. They've converted the model. So now they have it in a language that their software is gonna understand. So we're
Essentially, the stage that they're at is they have to run the simulations that were previously run and get the same results that JVA got, so that they know that the model is running the same.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're having a meeting on the 19th.
okay. Except that I thought we had specified with JVA the software that we wanted to use because it was more, I can't remember if it was more open source or something that we could also have in-house. So that's why we
So we
didn't
did-
want to do that proprietary.
they did the conversion. There's no open source version
Okay.
of the sewer flow model that works, but they converted it to sewer gems.
What is JVA using?
I can't remember.
I've got EPA net in my head.
That's
EPA
what-
net
that's
is
what
on
Merrick-
water.
yeah, that's what Merrick uses with water.
Okay,
The program that JVA that it was built on is going away.
okay,
So there was going to need to be some kind
Nothing
of
to
a
do.
transition with that anyway,
Okay.
so. Transitioning to water gems gives us the ability to run that model inside of a GIS environment in the future if we ever bring it in-house.
excellent. And did I already ask this? So when do you think this will be done and we will be done with JVA? When will this transition be complete?
We will know that on the 19th,
Okay,
I think.
I
meet with
think,
Olson.
I think from this point, it should be pretty quick, probably by the end of July, we transition out of working with JVA through the model and also to have the model done.
how has JVA been on responsiveness for this, like this other development review?
It's been better than it has in the past, but it's still, we're gonna reach out to them again to get the finalization on 1031, and then we did get the ravine model. And 8 inch is good. At full build out on that end of the system there, so there's no issues with capacity.
Okay.
Using 8 inch to cross the ravine.
That's wonderful. Okay, so moving forward and we'll have progress reports again by next month on,
Yeah, but it's very,
yeah, a couple things.
kind of a slow process, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They have to put their hands on every segment of pipe. Do that conversion, run the simulations.
Yeah.
And just try to be as accurate as we can.
Well, thanks for being on top of it. Anything else here? Update on backflow situation. Not this one. I have on the agenda, there should be an update on the backflow situation.
Yes, there's also. Yes, so. We were recently made aware of House Bill 1344, which was the sunset. Issue on. Backflow testing and other plumbing related issues. The part that affects us the most is. They made a new law where only certified plumbers. Can test backflow preventers and only master plumbers can install backflow preventers. I'm gonna say about. In my experience, running the backflow program here for the last 20 years. I can probably count the number of plumbers that have submitted backflow reports. 95% of the testing community is that's all they do is test backflow. So. Them not being able to do that since July 1st, it's been crickets in their inbox. CDPHE is aware of it now. It was run up to the governor's office like within 2 days. It's. Well, you know, Denver Water, they're pretty upset. I mean, everybody's upset about it. The state of Colorado is gonna be out of compliance if they don't make a change.
Can it be changed or repealed?
I think what they're gonna have to do is like a stay on enforcement until they can get into their next session in January of 25 and take that out, because I think that's what. If they're listening to anybody in the purveyor world, cross connection control world, that's the only solution to make it right. There's not enough people out there to test. I'm gonna say 300,000-400,000 backflow preventers in the state of Colorado every year. That's in service, so. It's they're actually having an emergency meeting tomorrow, the plumbing board, to discuss just this topic, so. They're moving, just not as fast as I would like. You know, our only recourse really to not be out of compliance is to shut water off to backflow preventers that don't get a test performed annually, so. I don't know who or what that, how many that could potentially affect, but it could shut off a lot of water, so. Hopefully they make the stay, kind of fix everything, but now everybody's playing catch up for the last 9 days. You know, none of the prevalent backflow testing companies that are out there, there's some, you know. Companies that test 200 backflows a day they're not testing because they don't want to take the risk of being fined and, you know, lose their business over something like this. And it's kind of a screwy situation, so we're hoping to get it resolved within the next couple of weeks.
Mentioning the state, I don't know if you've already told me and I've already forgotten, where are we on our lobbyists? Are they hired and up and running? Probably ought to get on that, because that one.
We had no motion to do that.
Okay.
We can, we just have hired for the one-time job.
Okay, and
We can,
can we put it on next meeting's agenda?
the next legislative session starts in January.
What's, it's actually coming up.
Okay.
Josh, these backflow preventers are commercial and residential.
Commercial.
Commercial.
Current law right now is backflow preventers on residential properties are not normally tested unless they. You know, if there's a known boiler or something out there that. But normally it's. They're in place per plumbing code, but they're not tested.
Was it just an oversight? Was it something that they just simply targeting or why?
You know, I've talked to a few companies out there and, you know, they've been in the business a really long time and when. It became a larger topic in the state of Colorado, they've been testing backflow since the 70s, but. Since I would say maybe late 90s, it got really prevalent where they were starting to put people through school. There a company called OCPO was developed and they kind of regulated all the testers in the state of Colorado, and that switched back into the state's hands, so. It was definitely an oversight. I mean, I don't think the people that. Sponsored the bill understood the implications of what that
Obviously,
specific piece. Would do to the industry, so.
All right, anything else for Josh?
One question, where are we at on the car wash? Is that up and running, or are they moving forward with that, or?
But yeah, that was discussed back in. The development reviews, they have plans, they're requesting approval.
Okay,
So we're
that's
gonna,
fine,
yeah. It's in there as a 2 reading minimum, so
Get one in and 1 year, not the other.
we'll get the plans on the minutes. And I don't know, Dylan, if that's something that we Do we put it in the packet for public consumption, or is that?
We
something-
don't generally put it in the packet.
Yeah, we'll
We
just-
do send it to Dylan for his review.
Okay.
And then our review.
The plans.
The plans.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
And the plans will be. You have, I guess, thank you for bringing it up, because the plans will be a big document. Josh, we usually have them printed out here.
I could actually make plans of one page document where you're seeing the utility overall plan, which will call out fire hydrant, domestic tap, fire tap, irrigation tap. It's. I mean, unless you wanna see the details for a meter pit installation or anything like that, but.
I look at details. But if you can send me whatever you've got, but
Okay.
a one page would be fine, and if you don't want to look at. Look at what you can, and if you have trouble with it,
That's
contact Josh immediately.
good. Okay, thank
There's
you.
options.
No problem.
Doesn't mean I will always look at the details, but. Good. Moving on to director's matters. And that was the Alameda Parkway plan. So we can move on to the proposed metropolitan district, the request for an overlap consent. Dylan, could we start with an explanation?
Sure, so this is the proposed metropolitan district in the federal center area. And like we discussed at the last meeting. State law and policy is to discourage overlapping service areas for specialty accounts. So the proposed metropolitan district here includes as part of its service plan. Provision of water and sanitary sewer services. And one of the ways that you avoid having duplicative services is by requesting consent from the district that would be overlapped, in this case, you, by the overlapping district to provide those services. So I received this, I asked council for the proposed metropolitan district to come and make a presentation on the issue. Because she has a much better grasp of how it's going to work on their side of things. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but I think it would be beneficial to hear from her about how that's gonna work in their conception for their metro district. So that's who we have.
It's helpful before we present introductions. That makes sense.
Very much up to proceed.
Well, let me weigh in.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm not ready to vote on anything tonight. Now, as far as getting a presentation, I'm always interested in hearing information, but as far as approving anything, I'll make a motion to table that until such time as we've had a workshop where we can actually sit down and go through this, kind of line by line.
What do you think this is?
This is not a workshop, this is a regular board meeting.
This is where we talk about things. So I understand, okay. I hear your motion. Since a motion has been made, is there a second? Second to table the issue? Any discussion?
So to table the issue, but to listen to the presentation.
Was,
I don't mind listening to it, but
Yeah.
like I said, I just don't want to vote anything tonight.
that seems premature to me, so I would not support
Yeah, I
that.
don't think there was any vote called for.
There was not any vote called forward. Yes, so to presuppose that we are not doing anything, I would not be in favor for. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of tabling after a presentation
Aye.
to table? Okay. So motion carries with Director Whitman, Martinez, and Little, and opposed. Director Wendell and Morgan. Okay. All right, so I guess we are doing a presentation. And that will be. Yes. Introductions would be good, since that was not on my agenda.
Wonderful, so go ahead, you can start.
Ally Meister and Scott Caldwell's at the other bookend from Lincoln Property. And so we have the site. We also brought our environmental consultant from Vertex, Scott Waldemeyer, and then we brought our outside counsel, which is Elizabeth Ortiz.
Hello. So my name is Elizabeth Ortiz, as she said, I'm with the firm of McGee Becker. We represent Title 32 districts throughout the state. What this district is proposing, the powers that are in the service plan relate to the district's purpose, which is to finance public infrastructure. So metropolitan districts are put into place to be able to finance infrastructures that cities, counties cannot be able to finance. So the powers here for water and sanitation are not to interfere with, overlap, or do anything that are the services that are already provided by Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District. In fact, the property within the district is relying upon the provision of those services from Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District. What the power in the service plan allows for is for the Metropolitan District to be able to finance and construct the lines that would be able to then connect to the existing services and lines of Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District. So it's the district taking on the obligation to extend those lines and be able to make that provision possible. Once those lines are built, we would work with Green Mountain Water and Sanitation for Green Mountain Water and Sanitation to take over those lines for ownership, operations, maintenance, and being able to provide those services to this property, which is already located within the boundaries of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District. So it is not a complete overlap of services. It's the ability for the district to take on that financing and construction to be able to have the services provided to the property. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions or give more information. The overlap consent resolution explains that process. It is just stating that the provision of services, while they are similar, are not into perpetuity the same provision of powers and services. Rather, we tried to keep it short, a few pages, and I want to thank Mr. Woods here for having the conversation and getting us on the agenda tonight, and I look forward to any questions that you guys all have here this evening.
So as I understand, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I have a question for you. When you're building these lines, are they under the supervision of Green Mountain Water and approval?
So they all have to be built in compliance with the rules and regulations of Green Mountain Water and Sanitation. So, and yes, that process.
That's fine.
That's how the plans will be done
Yeah,
with this group. They can talk to that a little
That's
more
right,
detail.
and just to clarify, we, Josh, it's nice to see you first, we are fully coordinated, so we're on pause on any engineering review, because you're doing your environmental review. But you do have a set of our plans right now, and it will go through full, both Green Mountain and Denver Water review, any set of engineering drawings.
Okay.
So it, as Elizabeth said, it's a financing mechanism really, and it goes for all utilities, not just Green Mountain. So this overlapping consent and the way the Metro District work is for all utilities that we're putting.
And the usage of these lines is for what?
So mixed use community.
Yeah, so right now we're proposing multifamily on the site and retail.
And approximately how large taps, how big of a process of utility usage are you expecting out of this?
I don't want to butcher it. I didn't bring our civil engineer to speak to the taps, and I don't know, Josh, if you know it by offhand. But our first phase is 300 units and residential, and then it's a phased development.
Of what?
Sorry, what was that?
Of what? Phase development of what?
A phase development, so over, I think it's like 60 acres, 59 acres that we have. It's a phase development, and right now we're targeting to go up to 2,000 units.
So 300 initially to 2,000,
Correct.
single family, multifamily, and
Multi-
multifamily and commercial.
And then there will be ground floor commercial.
Commercial. Okay, but so,
Ground floor retail, that's, you know, amenities for the site.
and are those figures stagnant? Are they estimates or what?
No, we've done architecture, like master planning for the site. I think that's probably, I mean, it could come down, it could come, it could go up, feasibly, but that's what we're targeting. That's what we feel like we can fit. That's what our ultimate build out of where we wanna go.
Within, and it's within zoning and like.
And I will say that the Metropolitan District, which is seeking the overlap consent resolution, is not able to finance and do any of these improvements, nor can the development start without an approved development plan. So the first step is a service plan and an overlap consent resolution. So it's not a situation where the district could move forward without all of these decisions having been met between all of the corresponding jurisdictions in the city of Lakewood.
So you have this district, and you're gonna work with developers to do this, they come in and
We'll be single developer, so just be Lincoln as a single developer.
you got a single developer.
We are the single developer.
You are the single developer.
Correct.
You are the single developer.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you have this master plan in place and you're all set.
And we've actually gone through a process with the city of Lakewood to master plan the site. And we've gone through a couple sessions with them. They have a set of art plans right now that they're reviewing for infrastructure, and that's why we've been coordinating with Josh on what the infrastructure would look like. And in our ideal world, we would set infrastructure up front, which is going down 4th Street and doing a couple of the private streets. And then we would just start with one pad at a time, one vertical pad.
Okay, well, I'm new to the club here, so.
Yeah, no, we're happy to talk about.
So
Anyone?
I'm trying to come up to speed on this. This is all new to me, on this, but,
You said the word pad. Are these any of these basement?
No, there will be no, and not even subterranean parking. Everything's above grade.
Housing and everything?
Everything,
So
yeah,
no basements?
correct, no basement
Okay,
level.
'cause I know they.
Is this because of
mixed
environmental
basements.
concerns or?
No, and Scott can speak to environmental, so our first phases will be on the south side of 4th. So 4th bisects are 60 acres or 59 acres. And our first phase will be on the south. The south actually has no environmental issues, and CDPHE's, all their restrictions are from 4th Street north. And so what we're first coming to for review of the southern piece of the infrastructure set. I think, Josh, you're doing an environmental review of everything, but the infrastructure set that we're currently asking for approval or review engineering after you get your environmental is actually just the southern piece, which is clean.
But the special district is for the entire 59 acres. You're gonna start on the south half below 4th.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah.
And what are you doing north of 4th?
And so North of 4th is a similar program. We've just punted it because we have to get through a plan with CDPHE on how to treat all of that and come up with a plan on what we're going to do there. Actually, physically what we would do in order to be able to construct anything. And so right now, at least Scott, you can speak, we're in process of just looking at a sliver, which is 4th Street, or maybe we're looking at everything. Because there's how we would deal with utilities going through that and still be safe. And what sort of clean corridors we have to put in. But we're currently just trying to make decisions on development of the south.
But you're confident that in the future, this can safely be mitigated north of 4th?
Yeah, and I'll let Scott speak to that.
Yeah, so north of 4th is technically the landfill cover area of the Fed Center, right? So that was the old landfill piece. So there's an environmental covenant on that, basically stipulates that there's stuff there, right? Whether it's contaminants, in the soil. And part of what's in place now with the corrective action plan that's been in place for the last 20+ years. Is the document that says in order to do any subsurface utility work, you have to do X, Y, and Z steps in order to make sure you're, protective of human health and the environment. So part of that is clean utility corridors. Any dirt that were to get, removed from there has to be disposed of at a certain landfill as an impacted waste. Clean fill has to be put back into place. There may be an environmental covenant that stays on that says in the long term that there's an identification barrier that gets put down that says anything below this is still potentially impacted. Above it is clean dirt. And then any subsurface work that happens 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road
would have to follow a materials management plan that's put in place and approved by the state. As a part of all the steps in order to get closure essentially, down the road when they want to develop the northern piece. Southern piece has been given no further action letters by the state. And that was a few years ago. And that was obviously part of what our initial investigation and supplemental work that we did out there, and obviously that's what Tri-Hydro was reviewing as a part of their environmental review, so. So the north one is just, it's further down the road. I don't know that there's any super concrete plans yet for the north. I think our focus is purely the south and the utility work and the roadway infrastructure work that's along the way.
Eventually, though, in the future, would there be an obligation for our employees to be doing any work north of Fourth?
If there is, that's where we would have the clean utility corridors put in. So there's requirements that Josh and we worked through that says we have to provide for water, it's a certain distance and depth around the pipe. For any other utilities, it's the same thing. And then in those, there basically would then be this ID barrier that gets put down. It's usually orange snow fence. And that's the demarcation layer of anything below this is technically still dirty if it's not removed. Anything within that is clean dirt. So utility workers, it could be anybody, it could be Denver Water, it could be you guys, anybody, Excel, whoever provides power would then know, and they have to follow that materials management plan.
So do I understand that
perpetuity?
the fence is underground then?
Yes.
It's left,
Yes.
so if somebody drilled down, they
You
didn't count
immediately
it.
see the orange snow fence and you would know, oh, okay, I need to follow the materials management plan on what we're gonna do here.
Have you guys done a study on what's buried in that land?
Yeah.
What have you come up with?
So I mean, it dates back obviously to the sixties, the landfill stuff, yep. So there's known asbestos that's up there, there's petroleum products, there's, just typical oils and diesels and things like that. But the big one is the asbestos.
Ammunition?
And it's not, no known ammunition in the North Pole.
Is this because they buried oil and asbestos there
Yeah,
intentionally?
So when they were working on the Fed Center over the years, when they were knocking down a building here or a building there, that was the place where they disposed of all of it. So over the course of time, that obviously filled in as construction and demolition debris, potentially known asbestos that's there, right, from old building materials that just got put there and then capped in place over the years. So there's very similar landfills like this on the north end of Denver, so up at like 62nd and Washington, all of those areas along I-76, where you see the big metal corrugated vents. Those are all old landfills that the city used back in the day, and they basically were old gravel pits, then they filled them in with municipal waste or construction debris or asbestos or whatever it might have been. And then it was all been capped. So if you ever drive along I-76, kind of going eastbound, you'll notice that it's very hilly in certain parts of the road. That's because that was all landfill material that's settled over the years, and then the vents are all there. But all that development that's along there is all post landfill, built on the landfill. I know there's a few buildings that are on, commercial buildings that are on some of them, and most of those have 2-foot clean caps on them, and that's part of what the plan would be essentially for the north landfill, the north part of the property here would be similar situation, right? Where we'd be removing what we need to remove, potentially removing more if we need to remove more based on the state's recommendations. But then capping in place and having the environmental covenant that gets tied to the title and the deed, and that runs in perpetuity for the land. That then has the materials management plan on it, it gets put on the state databases. This is in place, this covenant is there, and these steps have to be followed in order to do any additional, the redevelopment down the road, if it's 20 years and it turns into somebody wants to build a big house on it for some reason. All of those things.
Are the caps typically concrete, and are there caps north of Fourth right now?
So
Or
there
has it just
is,
been done?
yeah, so there is a clean cap that's on there right now. It's a 2-foot clean cap that was put in when they closed the landfill.
It
So there
concrete or
is,
something?
it's actually just dirt.
Okay.
There's clean dirt that was brought in from wherever it was brought in from at the time. So there is an ID barrier down there. So if you went digging out there with a shovel, you would find the orange ID barrier. So part of our corrective action plan that's in place now for the Fed Center requires that we go out on a semi-annual basis to inspect the cap, to make sure the integrity is still there, make sure there's no erosion around it. So we do that on a semi-annual basis for.
Now, what is your cap?
What is,
What kind of a cap did you use?
so it's a 2 foot clean soil cap.
Just soil.
There's like, and then it gets
Blanket,
vegetated
and
and
then
then
soil.
vegetated and seeded and so the idea with the cap is that that has to be maintained. So no different than one of the landfills up on, I-76, that's been capped with the clean dirt, then probably, parking and asphalt and trailers and buildings and any of the buildings have to have vapor mitigation systems in them in case there is things, petroleum stuff left in the soil. It again continues to protect any residents that would live there in the future.
Is there signage there now, warning of any of this?
I don't think so.
Would there be in the future? It's not required.
It wouldn't be
apparently?
required to
Okay.
have it in there.
I'm just
Not from the
curious.
state's perspective, it wouldn't be a requirement to have it in there.
So the
but
state
it'll-
regulates this?
Yes. Yeah, so this all falls under the state's Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, so the RCRA program, which is essentially the super fund program that the state runs for the EPA. So it all runs under the corrective action program, which is
So
what.
that's considered a Superfund site?
It was back in the day, now it's just been moved under corrective action. It'll be
Because
like-
of this capping process.
Yeah, so there's an existing materials handling plan that's in place. Again, that's what we're running under now. So if we went out and did geotechnical borings out in the north parcel, we would need to follow that materials handling plan, right? And if we generated spoils, it needs to be drummed and removed and all of those things, all of those different pieces.
How did you test the property?
What's that?
How did you test the property?
We have not gone up there and looked. We assume it's because of all the old historical documentation that there's impacts there. So really no reason, we're just going to essentially assume that it's all hot when we go and do development work.
So you did know,
No environmental stuff up there now, and part of that was because we did north of Fourth, because it's not in the plans for development yet, so.
so you don't physically know that there's ammunition down there or anything.
Just going off of all the reports dating back to the 60s. And all the investigations that the EPA was a part of back then.
My question would be, you're looking at people, some of us have lived right in that neighborhood for 50 years. Some of us have been on the citizens committee with the EPA. I mean, I personally have been on a tour of that property with the head of the EPA. And they don't know exactly what's in it. They didn't keep very good records. The federal government did. And I think they were looking for somebody to buy that land because now the problem is it's not the federal government's problem anymore. It's your
It's
problem.
your problem, yeah.
You just took on a boatload of problems.
But you're relying on the federal government to cover you
And they're,
by their documentation, and I think you.
Yeah, there's been investigations that
I'm
have
not
been
so
done
sure
in
about
there,
that personally. I
dating
think
back to the 2000s. There's
yeah, I know,
been
we've
potholed to death.
I wouldn't trust
been through
that.
some of those,
Yeah.
I live right across the street from there.
Yeah.
And there's also a nuclear reactor sitting right, just east of that property. Have they been burying nuclear waste in there? We don't know. Nobody knows.
You don't know who dumped what there.
Yeah, I mean, we're going off of again, all the
Yeah,
investigations.
once again, like I say, you're relying on the government to cover you with their documentation, which leads me to believe.
Were you
I
around
don't
when they
trust-
built St. Anthony's? They had people in there with hazmat suits everywhere.
It was full of asbestos.
And they found anthrax, they found everything in that property. So, and that's not even the dump. The dump's where you're proposing building homes or businesses or what have you. So I'm very, very concerned about that.
So am I.
St. Anthony's would be capped at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Apparently.
yeah, it's
Well,
just
San-
done and capped.
Yeah.
Committed.
And they hauled dirt out, they had the news from every news channel from here to China in there. Watching that building, so I'm just concerned.
And I think once the development plan for the north parcel starts to get more concrete, again, this could be 5, 6, 7 years down the road potentially. That's when we'll look at it and say, okay, there's gonna be, buildings here, here, and here. What do we need to do? We wanna pull this all out. That's where we'll get into the investigation.
My concern would be, you say 4 or 5 years down. My question is 10 years down the road, when you're gone, bankrupt or whatever, who's going to be liable for all the health hazards if there is any? I'm just saying it.
We're
If
not,
there is.
so the engineering plans that you'll be, when you finish environmental, that you'll be reviewing is just for the south. So we have to come back for a whole new process with both CDPHE, Green Mountain, and the city, every single agency before we touch the north.
There's south underneath it. There's all sorts of tunnels under there.
Right now,
We've been in them.
we're just addressing the south.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a developer, that's the amount of risk that we're willing to take on right now with you guys in the city is we're just trying to focus on the verticals to the south.
He was the city council, they wouldn't touch, the city wouldn't
Yeah.
touch that property when he was the city council.
And so, you know, I think as Scott's alluding to, we don't know what it will look like on the north,
Okay.
and we don't know what that will mean for us and what environmental hurdles that we'll have, and we're not actually right now trying to tackle that. We're just trying to tackle.
I won't beat a dead horse, I
50% of the
just.
site. Yeah, yeah,
Move on.
and we understand, and that's part of the reason why we're just looking at 50% of the site right now.
When we get around to having a workshop and look
Yeah.
into it, in addition to the environmental.
Yeah.
That's only half the equation. The other equation was 2,000 plus units. What can we handle capacity wise? How does that affect the rest of our district? There are other people that wanna come on board. So those are all the sort of questions we need to be looking. I'm not asking for answers tonight, nobody has.
Yeah.
But those are the things we need to talk about in the workshop.
Yes, yeah, and I heard that earlier in the session about, part of your guys' process of, you know, as you're adding taps and there's clearly other developments you guys are reviewing, and what that process looks like. And I believe this is accounted for, and Josh, you can speak to this, or we can circle back on it, because when we purchased the site, we received an assignment from the GSA that this is the site, us and then the hospital adjacent to us, there was a certain capacity that was, I think, earmarked, and I don't know if you can speak more to that, or we'll come more prepared next time. to-
Yeah, it's like capacity before is not
Right.
capacity today.
Right, it's like, how is that even
And-
up exactly?
Yeah, that was
Even if
15
I-
years ago, that
Even if I could give you 2,000 taps today,
Yeah,
what about all these other people that wanna come in having taps too?
understood,
We have to look at the global,
right,
we can't do this piecemeal anymore.
yeah. And I think you haven't done any engineering review yet, which would be part of that analysis, is to my understanding. So at some point, we've talked about, we, the developer, pay for your outside engineering review, you third party it, and we foot the bill. So at some point, if it makes sense to do that concurrent, so that we can have both conversations at once, we're happy to do that.
If you wanna go ahead and start doing studies, go for it. I'm saying tonight, reason we tabled this is I don't wanna do any action
Yeah.
that could be interpreted by a court of saying, you said it was okay. And the developers proceeded to go down this track, then all of a sudden they spent money and they're shit out of luck and everybody's fighting. I don't wanna lead you on.
Yes, so there's actually three prongs of things we need to work on with you guys, which is environmental review. And which is engineering review and looking at the number of taps relative to the rest of your pipeline, and then it's consent of a metro district.
Yeah.
Which is just
So
basically.
so we're
saying-
really only on the one prong. So most of the questions that you've had have been about the district development review process and have been directed at the developer side of this. But on the agenda tonight is only the metro district formation process. So it came to you last month via City of Lakewood referral process, which is City of Lakewood has a request to form the metropolitan district. Do you have any comments? And our comments were, it appears that the service plan calls for water and sewer service provision, which would be overlapping. That led to a conversation about, yes, there is a request for you to consent to that overlap. So from my perspective, there are two prongs. There's the development and then there's the metropolitan district formation. The development is proceeding separately. So what you've tabled tonight is just the request to consent to an overlapping service of a metropolitan district within your district. And I don't know where the process is with Lakewood, but the metropolitan district doesn't exist yet. It's in the process of being formed, and I don't know offhand if you don't consent to this overlap, whether it'll just be revised and financing plans changed or what, but that's the only matter on the agenda today.
And I will add to that, the Metropolitan District does not have land use authority. It's truly a financing mechanism. So, to the comment earlier about giving consent to this evening could relate to something being agreed to in the future. But what this is saying is, yes, Metropolitan District, we consent to your ability to finance the lines, right? None of which will happen until the approved development plan in the city process is finalized. For the Metropolitan District, in order to be able to move forward and meet a November 2024 election, we need to be able to have the overlap consent resolution in place is.
This old dog has
So
been
it's,
beat up over decades of this sort of stuff. And one of the things I've learned is that incrementalism, that slippery slope. It's like, oh, this is a little thing, it's no big deal. Then you go to the next step, oh, well, you agreed to that one, so the next one. Then you agreed to two of them, oh, that's the next one. And you're going down. It's like, I don't want to be doing any steps until I see where the end is. So that's why nothing tonight.
What is this average, you're doing financial, what's the average cost to a homeowner or to a property owner to this
Yeah.
metro district, and for how long, forever?
No, so the metro district, the district is simply our development, it doesn't,
Right,
you can't set up metro districts that are an expanded neighborhood, right? But ours is just us, just our site.
Right.
So the developer will be the only one burdened by it.
By the way,
If you call it burdened.
that's why one of the reasons I always, I never like to make decisions in one meeting. You made the comment about November election. It's like, oh, are we talking about a Tabor election for permission? All of a sudden, that brings back memories. Oh, yeah, when I was on council, it's like, hey, can we have a special district, a metro district here in Rooney Valley? It's no big deal, we just need it today, but we have to have it today because the election is coming up in November. And then all of a sudden, we were ramming it through because we had to help the developer meet his November date. And of course, now 15 years later, we have the Rooney Valley disaster area. Lesson I learned on that, which I did vote for, is like, fool me once, shame on you. If I fool me again, it's on me. I did learn lessons, and I will not do these things quickly again. Come back next month, month after that, and if it takes time, let it take time. It has to be done right.
Yeah, I think, I think I understand your message about getting everything done, so I don't know, Josh, after this, maybe we'll coordinate about engineering and we can come back with more pieces of the things you guys are asking for.
Well,
Again, one of the things I would like to have working up in public hearing, what the public hearing about this is as well.
Water line have to be.
unfortunately, you tabled the issue, so we're done discussing and we're moving
4
on.
feet.
Fair enough.
Depend on elevations.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that really the purpose of being here this evening was to be able to answer any questions you have about that. And so maybe that can inform your study session later. So hopefully you see her as a resource or you can ask any questions.
Well, I'm hoping you come to the study session.
Absolutely.
I got one.
I'm sure it's
one
gonna be a
item.
lot of questions.
One thought. So. You're still in your process, you got this two-prong thing, that's right, you know, we did go down the other track a little bit. But I'd still like to know, your scheduling with that other track as it relates to the Lakewood government. And how you're progressing with that.
Yeah,
That would help to give us sort of a timeline as to where we
yeah,
have to do. So if you could keep us informed of that,
yes.
that
So,
would be.
we coordinate through Josh and I'm happy to, and we can come to these more regularly.
Poor Josh.
Yeah, we can come to these more regularly to provide updates or answer questions. So back in February, we sat down with the city, they require a preliminary submittal and you may know this whole process, but they want you to come sit down and they want to walk through the zoning code and they just want to talk about your site before you submit any engineering drawings. So we did that, and at the same time, because our civil engineer, Kimberly Horn, had started the engineering, we actually sent Josh our engineering plans back in February. Just to say this is coming down the pipe, here's our project. When in doing that, he said, we actually want to start our environmental review. So I believe we paused on any engineering and design review, and you guys have just been focused on environmental. in the meantime, since February, we progressed our entire set of drawings. And we just recently submitted to the city for our infrastructure set, so that is no vertical buildings, it's just the roads and utilities that go down Fourth, they wanna make Fourth a public street. So it's putting it around about doing landscape for them, laying out where lines would go. And also then the private streets that come down. And that's what's currently the city is reviewing for their first round of plan check. And we can pick back up, or after this meeting, we can discuss like if we should start our engineering with you guys, and then maybe we come together and start to have all these conversations about environmental engineering at the same time.
Just to clarify, were you asking about the development timeline or were you asking about the metro district timeline?
Well, the metro timeline and how it all relates, because it's a two-pronged
The
approach.
Metro District. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what's up.
so the metro districts, there are election cycles for metro district, and so there's one in November and there's one in May. So since we submitted to the city, we also concurrently submitted our metro district. If it doesn't get approved in November, we can come back in May, and that's fine, and that maybe aligns with closer to when we're starting construction. We just did it concurrent because they're reviewing a set of horizontal plans right now. You know, we have everything buttoned up, so we submitted it.
Okay, well, it would be nice to have everything in place as we get an idea, wrap my head around timelines, how you guys plan to progress and how the government's plan to progress with the relationship to your metro district approval,
Yeah,
to your plans, how it's gonna affect us, and how we make our decision, how we're gonna have to progress with us, so we're not being pressed.
yeah,
I definitely don't wanna get caught
yeah.
like he was at one point in time. That will never happen.
So do I understand correctly that you will not be able to be on the ballot for November without a consent resolution? Correct. Okay, what is the submittal timeline for that?
So we have submitted, as you saw, our first round, finance submitting our second round tomorrow. We wanted to wait till we view it to explain,
Okay.
for this process. So the scheduled hearing date is August 24th is what we were aiming for. I believe it's 24th. It's the fourth Monday in August. And
That's the
so
city hearing.
the city hearing, yeah, on the, service. plan.
Okay.
Last question for me. Talking about, said something earlier about cart before the horse. You're looking for a metro district, but we don't even know what the environment problems are available or anything else. So, I mean, is that the normal ways? I mean, do you go after a metro district first?
It is typical that
Okay,
they're
I don't know.
aligning, especially in the situation where the south is where they're going to be starting. And the environmental concerns again are on the north. It is typical because there are only, there's one cycle every November and there's May every other year in odd years. Now they changed that around. It is very typical to line the metropolitan district up as early as possible so that when all the plans and everything is approved,
Okay,
there's not another delay for waiting for a table election.
so the other part of that question was, are you talking about roads coming in off of Fourth? Do you have access over RTD tracks?
So the fourth exists today.
Right.
Across, and after RTE, is in between our two RTE tracks, is where we'd be, putting in bike lanes to make if you dedicate a street to the city now, they require bike lanes. They require sidewalk, parkways and all that. That's the slice of Fourth that we're approving.
Okay, so would it be, how do you get in to work that construction site? I mean, through Fourth?
Yeah, we would enter our site.
You're not gonna have bridges or anything over
There's no bridge.
or RTT tracks or?
No,
Cause they kind of surround that whole property.
yeah, they do, yeah. You know the property, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Segueing into development again.
Okay.
I'm just curious.
I understand. There's a lot and we're still looking at plans, so.
Yep.
I would like to reiterate that Josh has been working on plans and doing what he can to watch for the environmental so that we can get into the engineering. I know you signaled that you would do them both concurrently, but we have been operating one at a time and doing it step by step. So I'd like to reiterate that you are on top of it and
Yeah, the
we've
biggest
been following
reason,
that.
the biggest reason for that is the proposed corridors, depending on what comes out of Tri-Hydro's review, the recommendations, those could change. Where the lines are gonna go, so I don't want Miller Associates reviewing potential areas or easements, things like that, when that can change. Because then they spend all this time reviewing something that is no longer valid, so. Getting through the environmental will open up everything else that transpires through this project.
And we can come back to this, all of these development questions and environmental questions in due time. We just don't have the answers to have that conversation with anybody at this point.
And once you guys get your hands on that. Preliminary review, feel free to reach out, any questions or. You know, anything you wanna add to. Feedback to Tri-Hydro. Cause we are trying to schedule with Miller next. I think it's next Thursday, and then that's right after that meeting is gonna go back to Tri-Hydro. With our recommendations and.
Well, not to belabor a point, but to me, the site is only half the issue. The other half is the global, what is our master plan for the next few years? If we could do this in a heartbeat, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But it's not in isolation. It affects everything else.
And that
And we
that
have to have a
will kick off
vision.
a new process. For the actual development piece. This right here is just to say, hey, is it feasible for a project to go in?
Well, it's easy to say it's only, but down the road, all of a sudden, it's like, well, it's not only, you let us on, you told, well, you led us to believe we were gonna do this. Then you turn around and say you don't have capacity. We better deal with capacity first before we tell them.
Yeah, and that's what would come next. We don't know what, you know, that north end, that's the very dead end of our pink zone over there, so that's.
I think what he's saying was we don't need a firm commitment. We just need to know if he's available. I mean, Denver, this time you can ask Denver Water.
Yeah, it goes through their hydraulic
Yeah.
team and
We are
everything.
circling again, this was the conversation from an hour ago. For developmental models, that was not on the agenda then either, so let's move along.
So I understand that you will not be voting on the request for overlap consent, but you would like to have a study session. And I am happy to coordinate time for at least council to come and answer additional questions. I would ask that you all read the consent resolution to inform those questions for that. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have outside of the meeting as well.
Regarding metro district legal overlaps,
Yes.
of which there are issues. we
I
could be
will not
discussing.
be able to answer any questions about the development review process.
Maybe a special meeting 2 weeks from now, and then in the August meeting, vote on this.
Well, while you're doing your research, another thing that concerns me, I remember when this was originally zoned. There was all sorts of stuff about whether it's gonna be rebates and things like that. So I would like to look at more than just this 2-page agreement. We need to look at all the legal implications of this particular property. Like I said, I don't remember, it's been years ago since I did this, but I do remember things like we were supposed to give them a rebate and things like that. So there's a lot of other questions that need to be looked at. It's more than just 2 pages.
It is. As a development project, I agree that is particularized to the development side of things and is not particularized to this request right now.
Now, like I say, things are not in isolation. Everything ties together.
That.
All right, I'm belaboring the point. All right. Moving right along.
If we could move right along. Let's look at some dates, if we are doing. Let's come back next month and talk about, I don't even know what we're talking about as a workshop, we just keep throwing out workshop and I don't know what the heck we're talking about, everything in the world that our district does, or just this overlap. So, talk about it, come up with a plan for next month, what you would like to see, what we need to do. When next we have a presentation on this topic, I would also like to invite the Metro District Reform Group to give differing opinions on what may be interpretations.
Are you proposing that for the August meeting?
I'm proposing a discussion on what we'd like a workshop to look like. We can bring some dates.
Okay.
So moving on to amending the rules and regulations for the flow study that has now been publicly noticed. We had some brief discussion about that last time. Did everybody have a chance to? Do we have any other
Thank you.
questions? Yeah, well, out of your time, guys, thank you all. Thank you very much for your help. Thank you. Thank you.
Two comments, of course. Number one, as far as changing the may to shall, I agree. In addition to that, I noticed a page or two later, there was essentially kind of the same thing, where it was a may, and I think it should be turned into shall. That's essentially the same thing that you're doing here. You do it in that, it was like next page or page below. Anyway, you'll see it. I didn't write it down.
Okay.
But anyway, with that in mind, I'm certainly agreeable. That being said, the second half of my comment is reading through those rules and regs is like, oh God, every time I read those things, it's like, man, it's overload. And it occurs to me again that we ought to be looking at that in a global sense. I mean, put more things on the agenda. And rather than just tinkering with one word, one place, we need to be looking at other things. For instance, in there it refers to making rebates. And I'm like, where's this rebate stuff coming from? And I read through the rules and I didn't see where it said rebates. It said, when you're granting rebates, look at this. But where does it say, where's our authorization for giving rebates? Anyway, those are the sort of things, again, I would like to have a good study of these rules and regs, you know, because again, I'm looking at this Fed Center. If it comes in and it's like, we're supposed to be granting rebates for them on their stuff. I was like, why didn't anybody see this coming? So like, I'm trying to look ahead.
Oh, the rebates, I thought we struck
I
that
mean,
section. with this maybe.
rebate reference was struck.
Yeah, so if you've seen leftover. So if there is something to clean up, then please bring a notation and something to do. We have deleted all of the rebate section authorization.
Okay, there's two
So-
rebates in the copy that I saw.
Okay. Again,
But that being said, I'm
again,
all,
with your,
I'm
and your
all in
may,
favor.
other may to shall, any of these revisions that you see, just write them down, please bring a motion so that we can all see what you're talking about, and then we'll fix it.
And we'll look them over as well.
Well, the way it's currently written, I'm in favor of it. Okay, we can vote for it.
All right, would you like to make a motion then?
I move to accept. You know, here's another one of my pet peeves. It's like, on the agenda, you list the subject matter. Now, like I said, when I was on council, there would be a subject matter and then there'd be a proposed resolution. And I can verbalize the resolution. I hereby move as it is. Right here, I don't have any language, so I'm gonna say, I move to amend the regs to take out the may and replace it with shall. But that's pretty awkward, you know,
Understood.
me making motions on the fly like this.
Understood.
The proposed language was in the board packet,
Well,
and that was the stipulation from last month that we made it publicly available for review. And that's why it's delayed until now, so that we would know what we're voting on.
I apologize.
So it should be there. And I think that your motion was adequate to cover all the bases. And the language was adequate to cover the base. So is there a second? To amend the rules and regulations?
I'll second that.
Director Wendell seconds. Any discussion? Me neither. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous approval. Thank you all. Scary to say that we're on to the heavy stuff.
So on general legal matters, Josh and I had discussion regarding the backflow cross connection legislation issue. He addressed that adequately previously. And at the last meeting, you received a presentation from the auditor, and she mentioned that she had not received her liability analysis from litigation counsel. Litigation counsel sent that to her last week or the week before, so the audit is prepared to be finalized and will be filed on time. Just general litigation updates without getting into attorney-client privilege matters. The Big Sky mediation is coming up on July 29th. I have not seen counsel for that litigation present. I didn't ask them to attend this meeting, so I don't know if anyone else, I don't.
She said she was going to, that was, yes, she was
Okay. I
going to
didn't
come.
confirm that.
Okay, I did not either. I just assumed she
Why
she
would,
needed to.
why would they come to this meeting?
Well, because mediation is upcoming in a few weeks, and either at this meeting or at a special meeting would have been helpful to have a discussion with the board about an in executive session, negotiation, strategy, posture, who's going to be.
Okay, well, we're having strategy again. Why would she be at the meeting? We're talking about the council from the other side, right?
No. you're not.
Oh, our
You're-
council.
you're-
Gotcha. Okay, I'm back.
So you would be discussing litigation, mediation strategy with her.
Okay.
Yes, I also anticipated that she would be here. Separately, the Fossil Ridge appeal, the answer brief is due in late July. I am working on that. I have drafted that and we will have it ready to file. The Fossil Ridge trial court matter, which is the new litigation that was submitted to insurance for coverage, and you have been assigned insurance counsel who's filed motions to dismiss, and we are awaiting responses to those motions. The federal suit brought by former counsel Joe Timmons is on appeal, and you are represented by insurance counsel in that case. There's an informal settlement conference with clerk of the court also on July 29th that John, my partner, will be attending. We'll get into that in a little bit. In related to that, she has also filed suit against you in state court for unpaid legal fees, essentially. And that was submitted to insurance. It was not covered, so my firm is representing you in that litigation. The answer deadline for that is July 23rd. We'll have an executive session with John about that in a little bit. In addition, Ms. Pulver, the homeowner whose sewer backup issue has been sort of looming for a while. They filed suit that was submitted to insurance for coverage. You have been assigned counsel. They've been working mostly with Josh on getting up to speed on the facts of that matter. And they have a response, they have a responsive pleading due in a couple of weeks. So I'm coordinating with them, but mostly it's them and Josh. Those are general legal updates and litigation updates. I have continued to send you the pleadings that are filed as they are filed. Again, if you have any questions about those anytime, please feel free to reach out to me. But other than that, I think we can go into section 10.
Thank you very much. Any questions? It does not look like the first one, and you didn't have anything yourself on Big Sky,
Anyway,
anything yourself to talk about on the Big Sky case. I
no,
was anticipating.
we can, it would probably not be beneficial for me to go through the mediation, negotiation process.
She was gonna prepare,
Yeah,
well, that's something. All right, so we can skip that one and I will move to go into executive session for the purpose of receiving legal advice on the Timmons federal case.
I'll second it.
Second by Director Wendell. All in favor? Unanimous approval.
I go to the bathroom.
probably better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just bring that back, guys.
I see you later.
5-minute break while we,
Sure.
As the district attorney, it is my opinion that the discussion of the matter announced in the motion to go into executive session constitutes a privileged attorney-client communication. I am therefore recommending that no further record be kept until the executive session has been concluded. Time is now 7:52 and I am requesting that the recording be turned off.
Signing on this one here, this is your authorization.
Oh, no.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, heard the,
thank you.
The time is now 9:13 and I have resumed the recording because the attorney-client communication is finished. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the board of directors, myself, general counsel for the district, and John Cody, litigation counsel for the district. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I'd ask that you state your concern for the record.
No,
Nope, seeing none.
During the executive session, I brought up a figure that I made clear to the rest of the directors of what I thought would be a good level of financial negotiating in this case at month's end. With the, I think it was with the clerk, you're meeting formally with the clerk of the court. So I'd like to move that figure that I proposed during the executive session, that our counsel, Cody and Woods, be authorized to negotiate to that level.
Can I just put a precise tip on that? It was a range, I believe.
A range, yes, that's correct. Leaving it up to them anywhere within that range that I suggested during our meeting.
all right.
That's my motion.
Motion from Director Wendell, is there a second? Going.
Trying to like sort of recuse myself. You guys are not gonna jump in? I guess I second that then.
Seconded by Director Whitman. Discussion?
Yeah, I think, like I said, during the session, we might be just getting a little bit ahead of it, but. There is a timeline, for, you got the 28th, 29th, meeting. And I'm, like I said, I'm new to all this stuff here, but just from understanding this, situation, it just seems just to be a little bit, outside of what we need to be doing is with the money from the board being held hostage over stuff like this, particularly somebody who's trying to put feet to the fire on this, is what I see it. And I just don't think that there was that kind of competent service being rendered to the board. Not after seeing these two gentlemen, the way they present themselves and discuss some of the things they've done. And hearing from them on certain aspects of the case, I think that at this point in time, I'm saying we just need to take it a little slower, and I think 0 is the option I'm going for at this point.
If this motion is defeated here in open session, what's your instruction at this point? If that happens.
With regards to the settlement conference,
Yeah.
I'll inform the clerk that there's no authority to settle, and I appreciate the opportunity to come here and attempt it. But I'm not part of that case. I'm not part of the federal case. I'm part of the state case. So we just proceed and we defend you zealously and aggressively and successfully.
I would have to go 0 myself too. I think that listening to your presentation, I think she's kind of got the idea that she's doing some things just a little bit shaky. So I just think that, I mean, my original statement was 0 to 10,000. I think 10,000 she wouldn't accept.
Using numbers.
Yeah, I don't think we want to
I'm
talk about
sorry, I thought
numbers.
you did. What you did,
We
okay.
did mention.
Just general,
Excuse
but thank you. Thanks for letting us know
Yep.
your feelings.
So
Go ahead.
further in discussion for clarification, my interest in the proposal that I came up with during executive session is that I believe ultimately we could save the district money in legal fees and other related expenses if we could settle this issue. That's my concern.
And it's a valid concern, and it's well taken, very well taken. It's just with everything that was presented, I think, from council here, and what they've been very straightforward and honest, and I'm very pleased and impressed with how they discussed this whole issue.
Yeah, we got great counsel,
Oh, without a doubt.
very impressive, and I
Very
appreciate that, but I'd like to nip this in the bud and end it.
Yeah, I just would think, at this point in time, I'm not sure we can.
And I agree with you. I agree with you on that it seems premature because I think I do link the other cases. I don't want to do anything damaging
Yeah.
to our bigger cases.
The bigger
And
cases.
I think settling it all, besides the fact that I'm against settling, just philosophically. So I would not be agreeing to that either. Anything else? Final words? Vote, all in favor of the motion to authorize settlement authority. Twice authorize settlement authority.
Sorry, girl.
That's it.
Director Window votes for and the rest opposed. Motion fails. Thank you for bringing it up. Anything else we need to do on this case?
Your excuse.
You don't have fees, you don't have fees.
It was nice meeting everybody that I haven't met before, and Karen's always good to see you, and see you at the office tomorrow.
Yep, we're good.
Thanks for having me out, appreciate it.
Was a pleasure.
Yeah, nice meeting you all.
This was.
Take care.
See you later. Well done, John.
Thank you.
Everybody say, oh.
I thought there was something.
Yeah, have a good week.
there
Yeah.
To pursue them.
No.
Okay.
That's. We never kind of glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's instructed.
Okay, next.
So there is a Fossil Ridge executive session on here and a Big Sky executive session, like I went into earlier. I don't think it's helpful for me to do the Big Sky.
Right.
Executive session and. Just with timing of things, there's nothing going on in the Fossil Ridge case that requires an executive session, in my opinion.
You did file some things.
Your council filed a motion to dismiss on the theory that that case has already been litigated.
And we haven't gotten any response.
Their response is due August 1, I think.
But the judge didn't make any ruling or anything.
No, correct, but I'm sure the judge is not even seen it yet.
Are you still? On the original Fossil Ridge case, are we still waiting to do initial arguments? Something? You,
The answer brief is due.
Yes, there was an
July
extension, right?
26th, yep.
okay,
I have it drafted, I can circulate it for review by the board,
that would be great. Okay,
it's not final.
okay. All right, I got that confused. All right, so nothing else to discuss on either of those, and we've already done any actions, so there is new business. I wanted to bring up that other next session, remember to bring ideas and what you would like to see and when for a workshop or a plan for what we need to do for the Fed Center.
That's one.
Do we have the August date for that meeting? What is that? You talking about?
No, we will discuss at the next regular August, I don't know, the second Tuesday of
Okay.
the regular meeting.
It's the 13th.
13.
All right.
Thank you.
At some point, a global view of all the things we're thinking in the near future.
we should talk. You should talk to somebody. Let's do some homework. Before we do the entirety of the district business in one meeting. Which is what you're asking for. So unless you get that narrowed down. That's unaccomplishable right now. I'm happy to have a talk with you, and we have a whole staff of people who do this every day. So let's figure out what you're looking for.
Okay. The lobbyist,
We can hire the lobbyist anytime we want. There's nothing for the lobbyist to do right now. They are out of session.
well, I thought last time it was like,
We can do that now and get things going, and I've already run an idea past Dylan, and that I might pursue with him or elsewhere. I can tell you that you might know that our lobbyist, if you guys don't know, our lobbyist lives in our neighborhood, just had baby. So we could send him congratulations, but, he's going to be out for the next 6 weeks or so anyway. So in August, we can hire them and get them back on, and maybe in September, we can start running
okay,
ideas by.
all right, I just.
So we can't do that.
Last time we waited too late.
You're right.
Are we looking at a one-year fee?
It would be a 1-year fee. We did not authorize in the budget. We can make work this year because we already. We have leftover money someplace else.
Yeah,
I just was curious.
Yeah,
You paid for them by the year and by the case.
we do it by the year.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can start looking into that. I will ask him. To get a new contract. And
With a discount.
anything else? I'm sorry,
With a discount,
he will be upping his rate.
since he made a lot of money on
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
I had some outreach from Lakewood City Attorney on the ravine agreement. Apparently Alex Dorotic, who I had been working with, has left.
He has.
I don't know if he's left the city of Lakewood or if he's been reassigned or something, but he's no longer the attorney assigned to that matter. So there is a new attorney who has asked for an update. So I would ask to have that agreement put on the agenda for the August meeting. Last time it came up, we tabled it for presentation of revisions by directors or public comment. So we'll bring that back.
So if you have any potential revisions, it will be tabled unless we have some as it is tabled currently.
So I will just tell her that I asked to have it put on the agenda.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you all for lots of topics today. Please reach out to somebody if you have any other existing questions on any of these topics, and we'll get to work on it again. Motion to adjourn? I can just call it adjourned. I don't know why I'm doing this all the time. Well, meeting adjourned 9:26.
Karen seconds.